Surprisingly, the Gospel of John only records 7 miracles, not counting the resurrection itself. And the first miracle is at the wedding feast of Cana, changing water into wine. The 7th miracle we're going to hear next Sunday, the raising of Lazarus from the dead. Today's Gospel is the 6th of the 7 miracles, giving sight to a man born blind. And while these miracles are few, they have a deeper spiritual meaning to them. While we see that this man's physical sight is restored, we're asked to look at the deeper meaning and to see his spiritual vision, his spiritual life being expanded, the gift of faith. Immediately after the miracle, he does not see who Jesus is. The cured man's first testimony is to the neighbors. And all he can tell them is that a man called Jesus gave me my sight back. But then when the neighbors take him to the courtroom before the Pharisees, he's able to testify that this man Jesus is a prophet. And then after his parents' testimony, when he's brought back into the courtroom and he's harangued, he's able to say that this man, Jesus the prophet, is sent by God. And after he's kicked out of the courtroom, Jesus himself comes to him and asks, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" And he says, "I do believe." And he worshiped Jesus. Now he sees the divinity of the man called Jesus. His spiritual vision, his spiritual sight expands. The words of St. Paul in the second reading could be spoken to this man who was born blind. "Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. You once were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as a child of the light, for light produces every kind of goodness and righteousness and truth." Now in this story, there are other people who are invited to see spiritually, more deeply, but they all fall short. The neighbors fall short. To them, this man was simply the one born blind who used to beg. They don't even mention his name. He's just part of the landscape. And they're debating, is this the beggar or isn't this the beggar? And in essence, they don't engage in getting to know him. They just hand him on to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees fall short. They have no reason to be against the man, but when they hear that it's Jesus who receives credit for this miracle, in their prejudice and arrogance, they identify the fact that this man did this on the Sabbath. You're not supposed to work on the Sabbath, even if it is a miracle. And they label this blind man, they treat him cruelly, simply because he's associated with Jesus, and simply because he proclaims that Jesus must be a prophet to be able to perform these mighty deeds. And they end up saying to the man born blind, "You were born totally in sin. Who are you trying to teach us?" Their prejudice and arrogance would not allow them to see what was happening. They chose blindness. And then we have another 2 people who fall short, and that's the man's parents. Whatever faith they have, they feared the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, who were determined to expel from the synagogue anybody who wanted to proclaim Jesus as the Messiah. In their fear, they kept their mouth shut, even though they could see what was going on and who had cured their son. Do we fall short of perfect spiritual vision? Do any of us believe perfectly? Or does our spiritual vision, our faith, need clarity? If we find ourselves loving the Catholic Church and loving Mary, Mother of the Church parish in particular, and yet we find that we can't be bothered by the individual who seemingly does not really want our help, and we'd rather hand them on to Catholic Charities, to Salvation Army, to the county social services, are we not like the neighbors of the man born blind, who just see these people as part of the landscape, don't want to engage too much, let other people take care of them? Or are we people who align ourselves with a certain, say, politician or political party, and even when in our prejudice or our favoritism of a certain party, we see another party doing something good, but in our bias, we will not acknowledge that good because we do not want to be perceived as offering any support. And do we find ourselves being like the Pharisees, who will not acknowledge a simple good thing that Jesus has accomplished? Or do we find ourselves wanting to maintain status quo? We just want to maintain the peace, like the man who was born blind, his parents, who sees this kind of argument going on and does not want to get involved? Do we find ourselves sometimes in a conversation and people are saying things that, because of our faith or whatever, we disagree with, but we don't want to be labeled politically incorrect, and so we keep our mouth closed, even when one other person is speaking the truth, and people are looking askance at that person, and we do not want to get involved because we do not want to be kicked out of that inner circle. I maintain this about myself, and while I could be wrong, I maintain this about everyone else. We all have our spiritual blind spots. Is it easier for Jesus to change water into wine than to change human hearts? Yes. Is it easier for Jesus to turn wine into his blood than to change human hearts? Yes. In this Lenten journey, as much as possible, let us give the Lord our hearts, that he may transform them in his mercy, expand our faith, help us to see the entire world the way he sees the world, and how he sees each individual. And then may we respond to these words of St. Paul: "Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. You once were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light, for light produces every kind of goodness and righteousness and truth."